So hello and welcome everybody to today's International Transport
Hello
Forums.
everyone, this is the International Transport Forum.
Hello and welcome to today's International Transport Forums Ask the Author on our Road Safety Annual Report 2023. This is quite a special Ask the Author session. It's our flagship annual report on global road safety trends. We are joined by the lead author today, Rachele Poggi, who will be giving us a 10-minute presentation. If you're new to the Ask the Author session, the idea is we present methodology and our main findings in a quick 10-minute presentation, and then it's very much your chance to ask us the questions, and Rachele will try to get through as many of your questions as possible. There's a lot of people online today at the session, so please use the Q&A, the question and answer function in your Zoom window. You can already put your questions in from now if you like. So the Road Safety Annual Report, as I mentioned, is published in December. So it's just been published more than a month ago with a lot of media interest. It covers road safety tendencies for the 43 member countries of the ITF's permanent working group, the IRTAD Group on road safety. So without further ado, I'll pass over to Rachele, who will give us a 10-minute presentation on the main findings, and then it's over to you for the questions. Rachele.
Thank you, Ronan, and thank you to all participants who join us today. I will present you today the main findings of the Road Safety Annual Report 2023. The report would have not been possible without the precious collaboration with the members of the ITF Permanent Working Group on Road Safety, the so-called IRTAD Group. The analysis done in the report includes data for the 35 IRTAD countries with validated data. As Ronan said, there are 43 member countries in the IRTAD group, but they are all only present for some additional information and not for the main results. Then I would like to start by looking at the traffic volumes in 2022. Out of the 35 countries, we have data only for 15 countries. When we look at 2022 data, we can see that the traffic volumes measured in vehicle kilometers are not back yet to the levels of 2017 and 2019 in many countries. However, after the special year of 2020 and 2021, 2022 cannot longer be considered as an abnormal year. The fact that traffic volumes did not recover to pre-COVID levels was mainly due to the change in mobility behavior, for example, due to the increase in teleworking and, for example, an increase in gasoline price, among other factors. For this reason, 2022 data are compared to the average 2017-19 in the report. We now look at the road death data in 2022 compared to the average 2017-19. On average, when the US data are not included, road deaths decreased by 6.4% in 2022 compared to the average 2017-19. In the aggregate analysis, US data are usually not included because the results otherwise are biased, since the US is the most populous country in the analysis. 23 countries recorded a reduction in road deaths, and in 15 countries, the decline was greater than 10%. Lithuania and Poland recorded the strongest decline. Unfortunately, 5 countries recorded an increase in road fatalities of more than 10%. When we look at the data by user category, for which data are available for 32 countries out of the 35 IRTAD countries, we can see that the biggest decrease in 2022 compared to the average 2017-19 was for pedestrian, with a decrease of 17.7%. The increase of 6.7% in road deaths among power two-wheelers is mainly due to Colombia, where the number of power two-wheelers users increased quite a lot. As in many Latin American countries, the safety of power two-wheelers users is a growing issue, also considering the constant increase in the number of registered motorcycles. As we can see from the graph, the number of cyclist fatalities decreased by 3.3%. However, the incidence of e-bikes is constantly growing, and so it can generate new safety challenges to be taken into account in the next years. When we look at data by age group, for which data are available for 30 countries out of 35, the biggest reduction were for the youngest generation, with a decrease of 16.4% for the teenagers between 15 and 17 years old, and a decrease of 12.9% for the children under the age of 14. In contrast with the previous year, also the senior population recorded an improvement in road safety in 2022. However, when we look at country level data, senior over 75 are usually the most at risk in traffic age group. In the report, we also analyze data on that by road type. As in previous years, the rural roads are the deadliest roads in almost all the countries. To conclude the short-term analysis, we look at the mortality rate per 100,000 inhabitants. It ranged from 2.1 to 15.5 fatalities per 100,000 inhabitants. 7 countries recorded a rate lower than 3 fatalities per 100,000 inhabitants, with Norway leading the countries with 2.1 fatalities per 100,000 inhabitants. 4 countries recorded more than 10 fatalities. In the report, we are also presenting data on the rate per 10,000 motor vehicles and per billion vehicle kilometers. I leave to you to discover this data in our report. We now look at the long-term trends. We compare 2022 data with 2012. On average, if US data are excluded, road deaths decreased by 14%. Road deaths decreased in 27 countries, with the biggest reduction in Lithuania, Korea, and Poland. The long-term analysis in the report is complemented by the analysis of long-term trend on data disaggregated by user category, age group, and road type. To conclude the report, there are some annex tables with other type of information regarding the IRTAD countries. We have a table with road safety strategies and targets in the different countries. This is an update of the work done last years. So there are new information on new road safety strategies that were published during 2023. As usual, we have information on speed limits on urban roads, rural roads, and motorways for each country that are very useful to compare this data across the countries. There is also data on maximum authorized blood alcohol content levels, and also the rates on seatbelt wearing and helmet wearing rates. And to conclude the work done on road safety in ITF, we are complementing the IRTAD annual report with country profiles, where we analyze the data and the measure taken in each country. 8 countries for the moment are already updated with the most recent data. That's Canada, Costa Rica, Colombia, Japan, Korea, Mexico, Morocco, and New Zealand. And for the first time, we have a chapter on Costa Rica that joined the IRTAD Group last year. So we are very pleased to announce that it's also published the country profile. So new country profiles will be added in the next weeks, and I invite you to follow ITF on LinkedIn to see all the updates, because and this will be promoted in the next weeks. So thank you very much for the attention, and I wait for your answer, for your question.
Thanks very much indeed, Rachele. I'll just pop back in the chat the link to download the overall report, which also has the country chapters that Rachele referred to, including the first ever for Costa Rica. We're very happy to see them on board, to have the data levels to the comparable IRTAD level. For those users who are on LinkedIn or YouTube, we're broadcasting out to those networks. However, we don't have interactivity there. If you want to ask your questions, please use the register link in either of those platforms on LinkedIn or YouTube. You can come into the Zoom meeting and pose your question. So please don't hesitate from now to use the Q&A function to give us your questions. To get the ball rolling, Rachele, a question on e-bikes, electronic bikes, which are seeing an increased usage almost across the globe. Are they considered to be less safe than classic bicycles, and what data do we have to back up? You need to unmute, Rachele. Thank you.
Sorry. Yes, we can say that like the e-bikes are less safe than normal bikes. The problem is that in the last years there was an increase in the use of these e-bikes, and this also result in an increase of fatalities and serious injuries of user of this mode of transport. And on top of that, in a lot of countries, e-bikes are used more often by elderly people that previously were not using bikes. So this increased the incidence. To have a proper analysis, we are still missing data on the exposure of and the use of these vehicles, of this type of vehicles. ITF is working on it with the statistics group. So where like the ITF is working actively on collecting this type of data to improve the analysis also for road safety.
Thanks very much, Rachele. We'll give you links later in the chat to stay up to date on that new information as it becomes available. We have please don't hesitate to use the question and answer the Q&A function in your chat window to send us questions. A question, Rachele, on the very significant decreases in fatalities for both passenger car occupants and pedestrians, down from 27% and 26% respectively over that 10-year period from 2012 to 2022. The question is, can you give us information as to the reasons behind this very significant drop?
Yes, for sure. For what concern the passenger car occupants, there was in the last decade a significantly improvement in the safety of vehicles. There was a lot of work done in countries. There are more controls in the safety of vehicles. There are vehicles that are dismissed, so new vehicles are definitely safer than vehicles of 10 years ago. So this is part of the reason for passenger car occupants. And for pedestrian, it's definitely like it was definitely high on in the agenda of a lot of countries. Also in a lot of cities, we see a reduction in the speed limits. There are more and more cities where they are implementing the 30 kilometers per hour limit almost everywhere, and it's an important factor that can improve the safety for pedestrian and also for other vulnerable users as bikes as like cyclists in the cities. So as like ITF, we always promote the reduction in speed limit, especially in urban areas.
Okay, thanks very much indeed. A question on the power two-wheelers. You mentioned that there was, I think Colombia was the country that was changing the average globally. Without the Colombian data, are power two-wheelers increasing their safety or not, Rachele?
Yes, without taking into account the data for Colombia and the other countries, the power two-wheelers user killed decreased by 6.9%. So in general, there is an improvement in the road safety for this group. However, in a lot of countries, and especially in Latin America, but also in other developing countries, in the last decade, there was an explosion of the number of new motorcycle registers. So the number of the vehicle fleet is increasing, and also the traffic and the use is increasing. So this result in a worse situation of road safety. So there is work to do to improve in these countries the safety of power two-wheelers.
Okay, thanks very much, Rachele. Do send us your questions using the Q&A, the question and answer function in your Zoom window. The question on, we're into the second decade of action for road safety, Rachele, beginning in 2021, I believe. The first decade of action for road safety, no country achieved their full target, which is a 50% reduction in road deaths by 2030 compared to a 2019 baseline. The question is simply, is this possible?
Yes, yes. We hope also that I hope that it's possible to achieve this target. For sure, there are action to be taken. We can't wait that without doing anything, this target can be achieved. So countries need to put all their effort to improve the situation. We can they can start by doing action to reduce the speed limits. That it's always a good thing, like to improve the infrastructure, and also as in other works of ITF, like we are promoting the use of the safe system approach that can really result in good progress for road safety.
Thanks very much. A linked question to that question on the second decade of action as well. Are there examples within the IRTAD member countries of countries that are almost achieving that goal, or measures where that goal becomes achievable?
Yes, there even if the target of the first decade of action was not reached globally, there are good examples. There are countries that improved a lot the situation. I have in mind, like for example, Korea did a very good job in decreasing and almost reaching the 50% target. Then also other countries, for example, Poland, and like in a lot, and also they reach this result in a lot of cities in Poland, for example, the capital, because of a clear political will and public will to reduce the fatalities. So yes, it is feasible. Some countries like were close to this result. Then the problem with the first decade of action is that 2020 was a special year because as we all know about, for the restriction in mobility due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So the results were a bit biased by this, but I think there is hope to reach this result.
Thanks very much, Rachele. Before our next questions, and we still have time for more questions, use the Q&A function. We'll just run a quick poll to ask you if you find these sessions are useful and to help us improve in the future. 2 quick questions. If you could answer, that would be great. There's a question on, as always in the last few years, Rachele, on the data from the United States of America. Why do we choose to single out US data and show averages that do not include the US, which is an IRTAD member country, of course?
Yeah.
If your image is frozen for me, Rachele, you may have a connection problem. Wait for a few moments. So please bear with us. We're trying to re-establish connection with Rachele. So while we're waiting for Rachele to be able to reconnect, I will invite you to, for those of you who are on Zoom, in the chat, to be able to subscribe to ITF newsletters and alerts. That's where we'll be able to share the latest road safety information with you as it becomes available. And to answer that last question on US data, our colleague Veronique has mentioned that the US, of course, being such a populous country, has a huge impact on the data and impact on the average. So it's singled out and treated in an individual manner, both in the report and in our presentation. So I'm afraid we're not having success to reconnect with Rachele, unfortunately. Just please bear with us for a few moments. I'm very sorry, I'm afraid we've lost connection with Rachele. What I propose is that we will take any of the remaining questions that are in the Q&A. Oh, Rachele is just coming back. I was going to propose we would get back to you individually via email. But let's see if Rachele can be reconnected.
Yes, sorry. I don't know what happened.
There you are. Thanks, Rachele.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So our colleague Veronique helped answer the question you were working on the US data by it being the most populous country in the IRTAD group.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so let's we still have time for a few more questions using the Q&A function. A question on the actual indicators that we use. There are several different measures. I think the IRTAD report mentions 3 different measures of road safety. For measuring and comparing, how do we choose which indicator to use, and why do you choose specific indicators for specific data sets?
Yes, thank you for the question. So when we are comparing countries between them, when we look at the number of road deaths, since we can't really look at the absolute number because they are also depending on the population and on the size of the countries, we need to compare this with some other measure. So normally there are 3 measures that can be used. One is the easiest, is the one the rate on the population. So we look at the number divided by the inhabitants. So this is just comparing the countries based on their population. It's the most used because like the data and population are widely available. So there is a few problems to collect this data. The problem is that this measure doesn't give any information about how people are moving. So if a country is small, for example, and people are not moving, like are moving less, or for example, if a country has a lot of people coming from outside, I can think about like, for example, Luxembourg, that where a lot of people are not living in the countries but are working in the country, so there is a lot of commute. So not always this rate is the best indication. And so there are others. For example, a second one is the rate per 100,000 registered vehicle. So we compare the road deaths with the vehicles in a countries. The data on vehicles are a bit more complicated to collect, and there are also problems because sometimes old vehicles are still in the data. So also this has some bias. And the third one that it could be like in theory can be like the best one to compare the number of road deaths with the volumes of traffic is the rate per billion vehicle kilometers. However, the data on these vehicle kilometers are a bit difficult to collect, and also they are only available. They are always only available for motorized traffic, while it's much more difficult to have for non-motorized traffic. So this it's also a bias in the data.
Okay. And in the report, you can find the 3 measures of those
Yes.
road safety indicators, of course, used across different data sets. A question coming back to the power two-wheelers, the motorcyclists issue, Rachele, a question from Zulia Rodriguez about what strategies could we propose to improve fatalities for motorcyclist users in Latin America specifically.
Yes, thank you for the question, and I think that first of all, like the one thing that can be done to improve the situation is to increase the use of the safety device. For example, an increase in the use of helmets, and we know that like in some countries and in developing countries, unfortunately, the use of these devices are less frequent than in other countries. So I think that this can be the first measure. The other measure can be like an improvement in the infrastructure of the roads, and also in a better like cohabitation between different users.
Thanks very much, Rachele. A further question on the breakdown that we have in the report on different types of user groups. Even though all groups, apart from motorcyclists, have found a decrease in fatalities, those in the elderly age group still remain the most vulnerable. Can you speak to us a little bit about what the reasons are for that and what solutions there may be to address that issue?
Yeah. Yes, I think this is like a growing concern since, as we all know, in most of the developed countries, the elderly population is growing due to the big improvements in the health system and things like this. So this is it's a category, age group that need to be put into the radar for the road safety policymakers. In the last years, they are the most traffic compared, especially with, I don't know, a decade ago, because now like the older population is much more active than before due to the like improvements in the health. People like elderly people will like are going out more, they're using more the bikes. So I think that it's like the growing number of road deaths among this group is mainly due to a change in the behavior.
Thanks very much, Rachele. We're approaching the end of our session. There's still time for a few more questions. Don't hesitate to send some in. A question congratulating the new data on Costa Rica, and also wondering how come Costa Rica is only joining the data set now. Maybe it's a good opportunity for you to describe the story behind the data and how we get data to the level that we need for it to be comparable with other IRTAD countries, Rachele.
Yes, so we are very happy that like Costa Rica joined the IRTAD group and the group of countries with validated data. It was a long work of collaboration. First of all, like thanks to the Latin American Observatory, Regional Observatory on Road Safety. It was like the first one. Now there are like several other in the world. And then, like as for all the countries in IRTAD, there was a cooperation between Costa Rica and, in this case, Spain with the DGT, the Direction General of Traffic, that helped Costa Rica to improve the collection of this data, and went to Costa Rica to validate the collection of the data and help the countries to reach the level of the other IRTAD countries. Because as you all know, like the countries that are part of the group are like have very high quality data, and otherwise we can't do a good analysis if the data are not of good quality. So I congratulate again Costa Rica to be part of the IRTAD group, and from now on it will be in our regular analysis.
Very good, a very nice story. Thanks very much, Rachele. There's a link to the Costa Rica country profile directly in the chat, and again on our IRTAD report page, you can see the country profiles for all 43 countries. So we're at 3 o'clock. We'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for the questions. We'll send a follow-up email to all of our participants. If you have other queries about the data, don't hesitate to get in touch with us. We'll be delighted to reply to you. In the meantime, in the chat, you will find links to the ITF's main social media channels, where we will provide updates from the IRTAD and upcoming work, including on the safe system approach. So thank you very much, Rachele. Thanks to everybody involved in the report, and thank you for your participation. We'll see you again online very soon.
Thank you.